Welcome to Refined Conversations, a podcast where faith is unfiltered and authenticity is required. Every conversation is unscripted, so come prepared for the raw truth of what walking with God can really look like. Settle in, open your heart, and let's dive into today's conversation. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It supports our channel, and we appreciate your feedback. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Refined Conversations. Today, we have Melissa Pratt on with us. Welcome to the podcast, Melissa.
Hello.
We're going to go ahead and pray, and then we'll jump into the conversation. Father God, I thank you for Melissa. I thank you for bringing us together. I pray and ask that you would cover us and speak through us so that the words of this conversation bless all who hear. May they glean whatever they need from it. I pray that you would minimize us and maximize you so that you get the praise, the glory, and the honor. We give thanks and ask these blessings in the mighty name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Okay. So what has walking in blind trust been like for you?
It has been a journey, to say the least. It hasn't been my favorite because I am a planner. I kind of lean more type A. I like directions. I like, knowing where I'm going. I love control. I think that's definitely a human thing. It's a human thing, but I think some of us, kind of love it a little too much. And so walking in blind faith has been a continual journey. I'll say that. It's definitely been something that God has taken me like step by step. I was actually thinking about that just like in preparation for this conversation, just because like in my particular storyline, I've seen how God has moved me just kind of like piece by piece, like I don't personally think he's ever told me to like jump off a cliff crazy. I mean, I guess my version of crazy faith, but when I think about the next step that he's asked me to take, whenever that was, there's always been baby steps leading up to it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, in a sense, like blind faith, I guess, yes, but then also no. Because, like, I get it, right? Like blind faith, but at the same time, at those moments, like when I'm standing at the precipice of something, like he reminds me, remember you did this, right? Remember this worked out? You remember that next step. And so in those moments, like kind of feels blind, but then when I think about all the steps leading up to it or prior leaps of faith, if you want to call it that, is it really blind? It's been building. So yeah, that's a roundabout way of saying like it's been continual, but it also builds on top of like one brick on top of the other, and he's just kind of like led me step by step. So if that makes sense.
That does make sense. Okay. And so I'm going to give them a little bit of context of like where this might be coming from, because I've talked about this on the podcast before. Yeah. So you guys, Melissa is the person that I referred to when I said that when God was leading me out of the corporate world, there was somebody who was kind of parallel going through something very similar. And that was Melissa, who walked through that with me. And so, welcome to the podcast again. And so, it's the reason why I said it's a bit of a blind move is because, well, you're correct. Like God gives us those little like hints of this is coming because you feel that shift, and it's not for me especially. It wasn't completely out of the blue. I feel like. I don't know when I told you guys, we went to like brunch and it was like months in advance. And I was like, yeah, April 15th is my last day at work. And you're like, wait, what?
You were at Trolley Barn.
Yep.
Trolley Barn. Yep. I remember.
And it was just like, he placed it on my heart. And then me being me, I'm like, Lord, I need you to confirm this because I will up and quit my job. Because at that moment, I was not the happiest. And so I was like, I need you to confirm this. And then he would confirm it, but then things would just happen. And then something else would happen and something else would happen. And so it wasn't like this grand confirmation that you would maybe want. It was like these subtle hints that you have to be paying attention to notice. And once you notice them, there's like no denying that God is talking to you in that moment. And so, yeah, I feel like I always say to myself now, you're not blind, because when you're trusting in God, He's leading you. So you're trusting His sight over your own. So it's not so much, another pun, a blind move. Her company is called Blind Move, by the way, which is
Yeah.
why this is just hilarious that the Holy Spirit gave me that question. But I think that when God is going to call you into a new season, if He's calling you into transition, if He's doing something in your life that He knows is going to make you uncomfortable or completely shift or turn your life upside down, He is kind and intentional enough to know His child and say, I'm going to give you little hints. It's up to you to see if you're actually paying attention to the things that He's telling you.
Yeah. Yeah. That know your child thing, like that just shot up in me. Because I say it to him so much, like when I feel prompted to do something, or like, if I'm in my head about something, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm just like, Lord, you know your child. Like, help me. Like, you know your child. If you want this from me, you know your child. Like, that is like a constant phrasing in my head is, you know your child. And He really does. He really does. Because when we escaped the corporate world, when we jumped off ship, I remember being in my office, and like a few days prior to, like, we were a 4-man team, and well, we had a bigger team, like 20 something people, but our department or section, there was like 4 or 5 of us on the team. And so the week before, I was planning on telling my boss, like, hey, I'm gonna leave. Another coworker of mine said it, or beat me to the punch, and she was gonna do a work from home job. And so I was like, oh my God, I thought I was a big deal leaving her with 3 people, and now she's about to have only 2, just her and, my other teammate. And so I remember being in my office, and like I was nervous to have the conversation with her, but there was also like this, like there was just no going back. You know what I mean? So like it was a settled feeling, like a peaceful feeling, but also just nervous to have the conversation. And I remember pacing in my office literally before I had to go tell her, and just like praying and, Lord, give me the words. Like, God, if this is not it, you got to stop me before I open the door, make the door catch, or like, like something. And I just remember, I don't know, this thought of like, your child, you know how I am, like, I will do this, but if you don't want me to do this, like, tell me no, kind of a thing. And so I went and I did it, and it was the biggest relief too, of Him just reminding me in those moments, like, no, this is what I told you to do. Let's go. Like, come on. Just that prompting all along the way, because I need that. Like, I'm Gideon, like, I'm going to lay the fleece, dry it, make it wet again. Like,
is this you? Is this me? Like,
like, I remember hearing Gideon for the very first time, that story through like a Priscilla Shire study that she did on him years ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's me. Like, seriously, it's me. I mean, like, yeah, I relate to Gideon so much because God knows His child. Like, I need that, like I need that. And I'm so grateful that He has it. Like, He's always given me that. You know what I'm saying? Grace.
Yeah, for sure. It's so funny because thinking back, there were so many things, and like He had confirmed it. I don't know how many times that asked. He kept confirming it. Like the date was solid, and I had it marked on multiple, like even like the work calendar. I had it marked on multiple calendars. Like this is the day. Yeah. And the closer it got to the day, the more I was like, I feel like I could have stepped into that Gideon moment where I'm like, okay, can you dry the fleece? Can you, like, are we really doing this? Is this really you, or is this me? Because I will blow my entire life up right now. And that's kind of what it feels like. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they gave me a raise. And I was like, well, Lord, why are the blessings coming all of a sudden?
Same. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. Go.
And it I was like, why are the blessings coming all of a sudden? And then something good would happen. I finally, like, something, we had an escalation that I had been working on since like the year prior. It was a
Mhm.
huge deal. Like, that closed out in my favor and I got recognition. So it's like, okay,
Mm.
I'm riding high. And it's so funny because the thought that came to me when I was praying about it is I had always felt like they never appreciated me. And
Mm.
it's almost like God gave me an elevation at the end so that the presence that was now going to be gone would be felt.
Mm.
And in a way, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Are they gonna like offer me more money to stay? Like, what's going on here? Like, I kid
Yeah.
you not, like all these things were like running through my head. And then he was like, no, it's not for you, it's for me, because he placed me in that role.
Mm-hmm.
That was a job that he placed me in when I got fired from the last place, and for something that was not my fault. And it was kind of like, you know how like God, you walk out of the room, but God's presence stays. And so there's almost an aroma or a feeling when somebody that is really operating in God's strength and his power and his glory leaves the place. And I believe that's what he was doing. Because the amount of phone calls that I was getting, like, why are you leaving? Like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
I was just like, I appreciated it, but then I was like, oh, they're starting to realize all that time, all those things that I was doing, like that I felt like they had been taking for granted, which they had in some respects. They were now realizing, oh, we're going to have a gap. And I remember talking to somebody after I left, and they were like, you left a gap. And I was like, wow. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I love that though. But I mean, like, I think that's the power of like being like a God girl or God guy is I think everywhere we take his presence, like it's felt.
Yeah.
You know, and so when his presence leaves, that's also felt, which can go off into like a whole nother thing of like, why we don't want people going to hell because, hell is a place without his presence, and so how big of a gap that would be. But I had the same situation, like, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks or I don't know, before I left, I got offered a raise. And you were making way more money than me. I was in education, so you know how they are. But I got offered a raise, and I think I only saw it in one paycheck because of the fact that I left. But my experience, I think the reason why I was offered that raise or during that time was more so to test my commitment to leaving, because security, financial specifically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. You felt that? Okay. So security is always a thing for me, just because of how I grew up in a very insecure kind of space. Like nothing was ever guaranteed. Everything was always moving, pegs all over the place. Like you don't know where you're going to be tomorrow, what you're going to come home to. And so security and protection have always been a big thing for me. And so for me to be thinking about stepping out and doing my business full time with no definitive check. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I have to like, you know what I'm saying? Like
I know exactly what you're saying.
And for that to be, I worked for that. Went to college for that so I can have stable ground. And by the grace of God, he gave me so much stable ground, and then it's kind of like, okay, well, we're going to practice stability in a different way. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to come from a monthly check, from an employer. Your stability is now solely me, and so like, I think my raise came as a tester. Like, are you going to be tempted to stay now? Because, you can continue to do both, kind of. It was reaching a tipping point in my business, but, or you can like trust me for your bread, like, and see how much you trust me. Because it's one thing to be like, oh my God, I trust God. And then looking your
that is so true.
like you're like a cheerleader, But you know that check is coming
Yes.
every month. But what are you going to do when it's like, all right, it's getting a little touchy. I need a client, you know?
I'm telling you, faith looks so different when it's you and God in the boat, but there's not
Yeah.
two oars to row, there's only one.
Yeah.
And he
Right.
has it. So it's
Right.
like, it trips me out because I was literally having this conversation with somebody last night. I don't think, knowing what I know now, what I have walked through to this very point,
Mm-hmm.
had he knew his child, because had he shown me this, I'd have been like, no, I will keep my paycheck. I will deal with these people. I don't care. Like, I probably would not have left. It's been literally almost a year. I think we're like,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, we're about 11 months.
Yeah.
11 months
April.
in. And
Because I think we both left in April.
yeah. Well, no, my final day got pushed because they asked me to stay for 2 weeks. So I got pushed to May. But yeah, we're almost at that 1 year mark. And the level of faith that I have now is nothing in comparison to what I had then. Because what I realized then is I still had a safety net. I walked out of that job, but I had savings. I had 401k. I had like Roth accounts. I had all these things in place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I still had a safety net. But what happens when God allows your safety net to dry up and it's literally just him? It's literally just him. You depend on him for everything.
Mm-hmm.
It is uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It is mentally, it mentally stretches you. That stability and security that you craved, that you had, that you didn't have to think of. I used to tell people I would look, like, there were times where I didn't have to look at my account. I just swipe because I knew it was there.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
like, you didn't have to think twice. I've never really been a budgeter. And then I ran into a season where all of a sudden I needed a budget. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Lord, is this real? Like,
Right.
you know me and numbers, like, I will. In my mind, I'm sitting here padding numbers, and I'm like, what?
Right.
What am I padding it with? I don't have a check coming. And so it takes it literally, it stretches you to the point where, like, you have to elevate your faith, and he will start removing barriers between you and him to the point where, like, it's literally you're down to nothing. I always tell people, and the Holy Spirit gave me this amazing example during prayer one time. And it's like you're standing on a beach, and the beach is your job. It's your security. It's everything you can see. You can feel the sand beneath your feet. You know you're in safety.
Yeah.
And then God asks you to do something. He asks you to step out and trust him. So you walk to the edge of the water. You can still feel the sand under your feet. You still have that safety. But then what happens when the thing that he called you to do requires more faith? And you keep walking into the water, and every step you take, the water is getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Soon you can't see your ankles, and you can't see your knees. And then the water's getting heavier, and it's getting denser because you're getting deeper. Things are starting to get scarier. You're at the point where, like, you're at your waist. Like, half of you cannot see. You can still feel that there is stability and safety under your feet because you're still touching the ground. But now you can't see your feet. You just have the feeling that you know the security is there. So you're like, okay, I can still trust you, Lord. I'm going to walk out. And so you keep walking out. You keep walking out. 2 seconds later, you're neck deep. You're trusting God. You can see how beautiful the ocean is. You can turn around. You can see the beach, and you're like, okay, safety is just right there. I can go back if I need to. My feet are still touching ground. Like, I'll keep walking. But what happens when you get to the end of the sandbar and you have one toe on the sandbar and one toe in the deep? You're so far from that safety and security of the beach. And then you look out into the ocean and you see Christ. And Christ says, come to me. As long as you trust me and you keep your eyes on me, you will not drown. You have one foot on the sandbar. That's it. And your other foot is like already halfway treading water. Are you going to trust God knowing that if you take your eyes off of him, you are going to drown? Or are you going to, you know what, go back to safety? You still have a little bit of a hook to that beach with your toe on the sand. Well, what I've done at this point is my toe is no longer on the sandbar, and I'm
Right.
treading and I'm swimming towards Christ. And
Mm.
I'm barely keeping my head above the water, but I have to keep my eyes on him. That's the deal. My
Mhm.
head stays above water and I can swim as long as I look at him. And I associate that with Peter walking on water.
Mhm.
And he says, "Why did you doubt?" And that's the reason that Peter sunk. He had that momentary doubt. He felt the wind whipping around him, he felt the waves beneath his feet, and he took his eyes off Jesus for a second and he fell underneath the water. But the thing about it is what people miss is that the Bible says that Christ just reached his hand down and grabbed him. He was already so close,
Yeah.
yet
Yeah.
mentally he was so far away because he was so distracted.
Yeah.
And
Ooh.
so that's where I feel like I am. I'm literally like, I'm out here treading water and I'm floating and I'm following my Father and I'm keeping my eyes on Christ. But I have no sandbar in sight at this point,
Mm.
which can tell you like where I am in the process.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
terrifying because when you think about it, a fish could touch your leg. A shark could be swimming beneath you. You can't see in deep water. You
Mm.
know that there are things down there, and those are the things you want to look down and see what's in there.
Make sure,
But
like.
make sure. But if Christ says keep your eyes on me and you'll be fine, even though in the back of your mind you know that Jaws is beneath your feet. it's like you want to look,
Mhm.
but you also understand that if I do look, I'm going to go under.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I also know that no matter where I am, I'm still close to him. So he can still pull me out. But do I want to go through the trial, the trauma of sinking underwater, even if it's just for a moment? Do I want to deal with that? And so I just keep treading. And even though my head's like barely above water and I get tired of swimming sometimes, it's like I have nowhere else that I'm willing to look but at him because I don't want to take the chance of falling.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that analogy because it's so true, especially with like, as a business owner. I think specifically as a business owner, you definitely can feel that. But there was one thing you said that just really kind of hit where you said, like, you're so close, but mentally you're far away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that made me think of something that I struggle with, especially in this season, or I've had to navigate. And that's using vices, if you will, as distractions when I feel out of sorts or when I feel like I need some sense of control, And so that line right there of being so close that he can reach out and touch you, and yet
Mm-hmm.
being so distracted in your mental, where it's like I'm looking for any other thing that I can grab onto, that I can, manage. And so I've definitely had to walk through that in this season. And this is a little different as far as a little veer off from faith, but one thing that I am navigating in this season is going to him,
Mm-hmm.
as a source and not just filling my mind with distractions or even letting my business be a distraction.
Yeah.
Do you know? Because sometimes I find myself um, when I feel out of control, like, oh, the clients aren't coming in. January was a super slow month for me. And so I was busying myself
Mm-hmm.
with my business instead of like, God, like I'm nervous,
Yeah.
and then going to him and bringing those nerves to him so that he can calm me, and when I did, it was beautiful because it was kind of like he told me like, yeah, it's slow right now, but I've given you things to do in this slow season and it's actually a blessing, and instead of working on your business from a place of worry,
Mm-hmm.
work on your business from a place of understanding that I've got you and that this time is actually a blessing and you're going to need it for
That
the
part.
next season.
Mm-hmm.
So the slow pace that I'm taking you is not because I don't see you. It's not because, you're failing in any way. it's actually a blessing that you're slow right now, that it's calm right now, and I need you to do what I told you to do in
Mm-hmm.
this season and get those things done and not look for distractions. Like, keep your eyes on me. I need you to be mentally, emotionally attached to me so that I can take you where you need to go. And so that line right there is great. I'm gonna write that down sometime. Because that's just that's so true. Being so close and mentally so far away, and I find myself there like I know he's here, because he
Mm-hmm.
literally says that he would never leave nor forsake. So I know he's here, but why can't I grab onto him sometimes?
Yeah.
And that's definitely something I'm navigating in this season too.
Yeah.
So.
He told me pretty much I had idols. So the business had not become an idol, but I realized anytime I get stressed out, instead of going to him, I start going through my phone and I do
Mm,
something to just like decompress my mind, just in mindless scrolling. And it got to
mm,
the point where for the month of February, I have been fasting social media and TV for most of the month. And I've done this before.
mhm,
And so it's a wonderful thing because I've been reading a book. Like my
mm.
attention span is expanding
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
again. But I've also been able to be a sponge to learn how to fill your time with his presence and with the things that he's told us to do. Reading your Bible, listening to worship music, writing out prayers, and just sitting in silence in the closet.
Mm,
It are things that you kind of take for granted. Like, it's like, okay, I have my prayer time in the morning. I have my prayer time before I go to bed. I read at least a chapter or a couple of scriptures during the day or at the beginning of the day.
mm,
But in the middle of the day, when I'm hitting that wall,
mhm,
I now have the ability to go sit with him in silence and just say, like, I'm scared, or I need you to help me decompress, or I just feel tight. I feel heavy. I feel like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders right now.
mm,
And it's that reminder that all throughout the day, like prayer is continuous. The
mm.
conversation does not stop. If you
Yeah.
are afraid, he wants to know that you're afraid. Tell him what you're afraid of. If you're excited about something, talk to him about what you're excited about. It's
Yeah.
taking all those small moments that we take for granted. And like, you know how something good happens, you're like, oh, I'm just going to take a break. This is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
I got
yeah.
10 minutes. I'm going to take a break. Let me scroll.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah,
like
yeah,
30 minutes later, you're like, oh my God, now I'm stressed. I need to go do this. And it's
yeah.
like, if you had taken that moment to share your gratitude with God, or share concerns with God, or share your stresses with God, he says, cast your burdens on me and I will give you rest. But it's kind of like, give him the other things too. Give him the good
Mhm,
things. And it's just a moment. And I've started to really understand that one of the things that God had to get me together about is the control that I crave, because I'm also
mhm.
type A, super
Yeah.
organized and like boom, 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 ABC all throughout the
Yeah.
day. And one of the things I had to realize, he was like, the more you try control, the more you crave control, the less you trust me.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so he was like, control does not require a lot of faith.
Mm,
And what you're doing requires a lot of faith.
yeah.
The requirement of faith is an allotment of faith that I've never had, I've never seen. Like, faith looks so different in this season. My heart has changed. I kid you not. Like, commercials, those like sad commercials, like I get excited when like you see babies running or something like that. Like, it's everything like pulls on my heart. Everything has a
Mm,
deeper meaning and understanding. And it's I can't even I can't I don't even know how to describe it. One of the things I've been praying for in this season is compassion, because I'm dealing with a lot of people. I'm
mm,
building a team. I'm working with a lot of people. I'm dealing with other owners of nonprofits and going into areas that I've never been in. So it requires a level of confidence and just a readiness to go before people and have these conversations and do the things that I'm doing in this season.
yeah.
And it's just like, you want to walk into the room and you know how we used to walk into rooms, you think you know everything. It's like when you
Mm,
start a job And you walk in and you're like, I'm going to change everything. I'm here to help you. You guys hired me because you needed me. And it's just like, no. It's like you lead from the back a lot. And you walk into these rooms with a heart ready to serve, but to be a sponge and soak up the things that are being said. And the compassion that you have to have for people who aren't where you are. Because the thing about it is, the groups are always mixed when you go to workshops and things like that. And so you have people that are at a slower pace. They're literally just starting, or they might not have even started at this point. And then you have people that you want to learn from that have catapulted past you.
Yeah.
You have to have patience and compassion for everyone in their situation, wherever they are, that's in that room with you. And so the Lord has really been pressing upon my heart, like in this season, you need to learn compassion. And it's gotten to the point, like my heart aches because I see beyond the person, and now I'm looking at like the internal, like what's going on. Like how you feel, like even walking into a room, you can sense fear. You can feel it. Like I walked into the hair salon a couple of weeks ago and they're like, we gonna pray for you. Like in the middle of getting my hair done, she was like, you were heavy. The Lord said pray. Got her oil out in the middle of the appointment and took my hands and started praying.
Find her.
And I love Alice for it, but she told me that I was heavy. There's so many things that we're not aware of that are happening around us, to the people around us. And God has called me to work in his kingdom, to build community. But how can you build community when you don't like people? When you have no compassion for people? When you can't read or sense the things that people are going to, sense the things that are unsaid? The Holy Spirit is giving, because the same Spirit that lives in me is living in them. So you don't have to tell me what's wrong with you. I already know something's wrong with you. And so there's that level of just knowing. It's a shift that has happened in my life in this season, to where compassion has had to take over so that I can be open to understanding and sensing and feeling and just going to people. Whether they're in the same boat, they're not in the same boat, or they're ahead of me, I can function in an environment that is not singular to one type of person. It's been an interesting season. That's all I can really say. It's been a very interesting season. And he is really like, he's moving in this season to where I thought I was nice. I might have been nice. I wasn't kind. Like I was not kind. There was always I'm being honest, there was an undertone of something. And it's a lot of look at yourself and how you feel and how hard your heart is. And I'm going to now soften it. I'm about to break all those things that are within you that you try to use to separate you from the people that I'm bringing you.
Wow. One, I want to be like you when I grow up. And like no TV, no social media, just sitting in God's,
it's still hard. Like, don't get me wrong. My thumbs will it's gotten to the point where, I don't have the app. Let me go on Google. Google, give me TikTok. Give me TikTok for 5 minutes. It's still a struggle.
Yeah. I love that we're kind of like paralleled. Like our journeys are kind of parallel, because hearing that from you, it's funny, not in a ha-ha way, but just kind of like a coincidental way, because I feel like we have opposite, I don't want to say problems, but God is pulling out opposite things from each of us. Because I would say, and this is not a brag point, I would say that I am very compassionate, almost too. You know what I'm saying? And I'm very sensitive to, that's been a blessing on my life, a grace on my life, I'll say. Very sensitive to seeing people, like all of them, And so this season, while you're learning compassion, right, I'm learning boldness, which I feel like isn't an issue for you.
Because that actually speaks to our friendship. Remember when I messaged, she was my first friend in Charlotte. And when I was in Houston, you helped me find my place here. And then I went back to Houston and I texted you and I was like, I just love who you are and your heart for God. Like, I want to be like, if you want to get coffee or something, like, I would love to hang out. And I think that kind of shows it, that I was the one who called it out, but you were the one who was like compassionate and like very patient with my like me and my demands. And I was just like, I just love that about her.
And so I mean, like, and I think like that speaks that God doesn't do coincidences. Like, like it's no coincidence if you're in the kingdom. Like it's just not a thing, and I have so many stories around that. But, just hearing you talk about what God's doing in you now, God is dealing with me with being bold, and I feel it. And I don't know if it's maybe a maturing or maybe just me getting older or just a combination of all the things, but learning how to speak up for myself, learning how to say what I want and what I need. And just to get a little practical for a second, like I just recently redid my website and I'm implementing new systems on like HubSpot and things like that. And I'm dealing with vendors. And so, they have very, and I respect everybody in their space, like people who build websites, people, HubSpot management, all that stuff, but they have opinions. And I've had to learn to say, no, that's not what I want. This is what I want. And I need this to be done this way. And not in like a, mean kind of forceful way, but had I had to do that 5 or 6 years ago, it would have been a lot of like, okay, all right, I guess that works, sure, instead of like, no, I'm paying you X amount of money.
There we go.
And this is what I need. And so that like finding my voice through this, having my own business, because I do believe God gave me this business. His business is such a blessing from him, and it's so much redemption and so much beauty for ashes, with helping people find apartments, just from my own personal story. But, I've seen or have begun to recognize how God is kind of pulling that boldness out of me. And at times, I've had to kind of like push it back. But even with like some of my friends, my best friend, she said this to me not too long ago, but she made mention of this when her and I first met. She was like, we were roommates. And so she was like, I remember when we were roommates, you would go here with me and you would go there with me. And she'd want to go to the mall and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay. And she was like, now you say no. And I was like, yeah, because I was like a people pleaser. And I was like, I wanted everybody to like me. And I didn't want to make anybody mad. And she was like, well, go back to that. And she was joking. But that just kind of speaks to the things that God had to pull out of me, while he's pulling, compassion out of you, he's pulling boldness out of me. And still kind of, making sure I don't lose my compassion. And it's just like, no. But also being able to like speak up for myself and say what I want. And he's given me this vision. And you meet a lot of people with a lot of opinions and learning how to say like, no, this is what I need you to do. And this is what I'm paying you to do. Please do it this way. And so I love that we're kind of experiencing this like together in so many ways, because yeah, it has been like that. Like I get a lot of that from you. I honestly do think of you when I think of like, speaking up or like going after something. Like I can kind of just like hear your voice in my head sometimes, because even like, because even when we've had like our consultations, and you kind of are giving me ideas, and you're like, okay, girl, this is da 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 da, and I was like, yeah, okay, all right, and I'm thinking about ways in which to expand my business and things like that. I literally do hear you in my head sometimes. I'm like, wait a minute, that's God, that's Courtney. But it's great though. It's great though, and I think that's beautiful in the sense that like for people who are starting businesses or on this kind of like entrepreneurial journey, and they have a friend, or they're looking across their shoulder and they see their friend doing something or another business owner doing something, like, you don't know what God is doing in their particular story, because you don't know what God knows about them, and you don't know what God needs to bring out of them. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, for you, this is a time of compassion, you know, but I'm not gonna say I never do, but I mean, like, compassion wasn't necessarily like a struggle for me,
Hmm.
but boldness was, you know,
Yeah.
boldness was. I like to say that I'm a recovering people pleaser. You
Hmm.
know, like,
See,
I'm
I'm a
learning.
recovering people pleaser on the other side of the spectrum. Because I kid you not, when you were you were like, I have a hard. You were talking about the HubSpot thing and like working with the vendors, and I'm sitting here like, it's your money. Like they need to give you what you want. But on the other side, God has literally placed SME, like subject matter experts in my life.
Mhm.
And so now I have to go to them and say,
Mhm.
what do you think? Like, let's work this out. This is what the vision that I have, but like, let's dissect it since you know this. Instead of me always being like, oh, figured it out, or we're just going to do it my
Yeah.
way. And if we fail, we fail. It's all good.
Yeah.
No. And so that's the compassion piece, learning how to work with people, because I'm
Mm.
very much a doer. Like if I wanted, it's so funny. One of the ladies that works with me, when she first started working with me, she was like, I've kind of realized that if you say you want something done and nobody does it, you're just gonna do it
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
you even talk to anybody. And then
Yeah.
2 seconds later, you're like, oh, it's done. It
Yeah.
worked or it didn't work, but it's done.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah. And so I was like, yeah, I'm working on that. But that is a quirk of mine. If I want
Yeah.
something done and you won't, if you drag your feet, I'm going to just do it. And then it tells me I don't
Same.
need you.
Same.
And that's the problem.
Same. Like, I do think we connect on that, because same. And I don't know where mine comes from. I probably could dive deep into it, but I think it comes from a place of like not trusting people to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like, I've had too many examples of like somebody's supposed to be in a role or do a thing and they don't get it done. And so I've learned, or been conditioned, however you want to say it, you know, that I have to do it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it needs to get done through me. And in times, I mean, there have been some really good times where like that has worked in my favor. You know, when I needed something done, when I, taught high school, I wanted to start taking international trips, and there was nobody really doing that, or nobody there to help me do it. And so I wanted it done, and by golly, it got done, and
Mm-hmm.
I went on 3, and then everybody wants to hop in, or even with Blind Move. And not by any means, I am not like the only or the first person to, be an apartment locator in Charlotte, but there wasn't really an Instagram social media presence for it when I started 5 years ago. Now it's everywhere, for Charlotte, but I wanted it done, and so I did it. I didn't
Yeah.
like find a bunch of experts or people to help me do it. So in some regards, some respects, like that has helped me,
Yeah.
but
But that's how
motivation.
creatives do things.
Yeah, it is. It is. It truly is. But I think like when it comes to like the God part of it, I think motivation is always a huge thing with God, what's going on in our heart. And a lot of that comes from not trusting people to
Yeah.
do anything or help me, and that's where I am too. With like, what do I offload in my business? Because it's like, can I trust you
Mm.
to do something? And I think that also can kind of create a little bit of an isolationist. Like you become like an island, because you're like, who's going to help me? There's nobody around who can help me or who will help me, or, and so that also, like, I don't think it's a bad thing that we kind of
Yeah.
get things done. People depend on us, people lean on us, but at the same time, it can kind of make you an island unto yourself, where it's just like,
Yeah.
I got it,
That's so, that's true.
and Lord forbid you start treating God like that. Like, God, I got it. Like, come, I
See,
got it.
Holy Spirit is good on this, because literally you were talking and he kept saying, ask her how she feels about our trusting in man and how it directly correlates to how we trust in God.
Mm.
And I hear it in what you're saying and how it's really hard. Like we have that drive, that creativity, that motivation to be doers, to get things done. And it's hard to find good health. And a lot of times, just like people correlate church hurt to people hurting them in the church to God, so I'm just going to turn away from him completely because these people did this and they're supposed to be his children. I feel like that leans into how we trust God as well. The harder it is for you to trust people, because God will send you people. He will talk to you through people. But if your heart is closed off to people, you can't hear him through them. You can't see him work through their lives. God will give you examples like you and I. When God called me to leave the corporate world, had I not been trusting of you to actually tell you that, I wouldn't have known. You wouldn't have called me when you were leaving, and I wouldn't have had that partner. I wouldn't have had that helper. Because remember, there were days where you would call me and be like, how you doing? Like, what's going on? And you would like literally talk me off the cliff.
Yeah.
And then I would also be able to encourage you on those days. And I can't even remember what the idea was, but you were like, let's send each other videos and da-da-da-da. So I actually looked forward to it. And we were sending each other videos of encouragement. But it's things like that. If you don't trust God to put people in your path and be able to trust people and open up to people, you can't see what God is trying to do through people in your life. You kind of cut off a whole section of how he moves. All throughout the Bible, when God calls people to do things, he sends them a helper. He sends them a friend. He sends somebody in their path. And I've talked about this on other episodes, how David had Jonathan, Adam has Eve, like Elijah has Elisha. Which one came first and which one came second? I can't even think of it. I think it's Elisha. That was second. He had the servant. Everybody has somebody. Paul, Barnabas, Paul, Silas. Everybody has somebody. It just shows how God will use people and give you like that support that you need. But if you can't trust people, how is he going to send you the people that can actually help you? How is he going to send you the people that can actually like help drive whatever vision he gave you forward? And so I think that a lot of times we lack the trust in God to do those things because we don't like what the people are doing. So how could he possibly send me a good person to help me out? Which means, you don't trust God to see the heart of man to actually send you the right person. And so how we don't want to talk to people and we hold it in internally. But then are you turning and talking to God, or are you talking to yourself? And so I think that there is a correlation when you struggle with trust. It hits on both sides. So I feel like there's almost a direct correlation. The less you trust people, it makes me wonder what your trust in God looks like, because God is sending good people into your path. God is faithful to his word and his promises. But he moves so much through people. It's just like you have to trust and use your discernment and your connection to God to know who you can trust and who you can't trust. And so I just find that interesting, because if God called us to something, and I say this to myself as well as I kind of work it out, even though I asked you a question, so my bad. But like I say this to myself because like I had such a hard time letting people into the vision that God gave me, thinking they were going to try to take it from me or make it look like something else. That in the beginning, I had a very hard time opening up and allowing people in. But I wasn't trusting that God said, when he said, I will carry you, that meant he was going to help me, which meant he was going to send people to help me. He was going to use people to speak to me. He was going to use their discernment where I was lacking discernment or not hearing him to call things out, which he did. But I didn't trust that person that he sent would actually tell me the truth. Yeah. So then I started stepping outside of his will, and things started getting shaky for a minute there. But yeah, I think there's a correlation between the two.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like God does work through people, because why wouldn't he? He created them. you know,
That
you
part.
know,
That part.
so it's like you can't be the extreme of like, oh, I only listen to God, because that's not even biblical, like
Hmm.
wise counsel is, in the Bible, um, like David had, who is it? Nathaniel? Is it Nathaniel, the one who came to David after he had sinned against God with
Yeah.
Bathsheba?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Nathan.
and Nathan. Okay. I love the name Nathaniel. That's a sidebar. Anyway, but you need people like that,
Yeah.
and so that has also been, and again, our parallel journeys, that has also been a thing for me, in this business, even like with my assistant. I remember I gave her a task. And I was like, oh, yeah, here's a task. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I'll probably have to fix it. Like, and I realized that I thought that about every task,
Hmm.
like, oh, well, I'll give this to this person, but I'll fix it or whatever. Um, and she gave it back to me. It was an email that I needed, like a mass email that I needed her to kind of draft, and she sent it back to me, and I was like, this is good.
Hmm.
I was like, I don't know, she might have chat GPT'd it, but it doesn't even matter because it was good. It was good. Like I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Like I didn't. I think I asked her to move something around in it because it had images in it. But that was just something off my plate, and she did a really good job. And even editing a video, and I gave her a video to edit, and she did a really good job. And I was like, oh my God, she does a really good job. And I don't know why I was so shocked by that.
Hmm.
I mean, I did hire her to help me, but it was just in that moment me realizing what my mentality was when it came to people,
Hmm.
like expecting them to do less than I would do, or kind of like a layer of disappointment of like, oh, well, you did your best, I'll fix it, and having that mentality. Like even when I was a teacher, I kind of had that mentality, which some of them helped with that mentality, because let me just say, um, they would just turn in stuff, and I'm like, yeah, we're going to do this a little bit better for these kids. Like, you got to step it up. If you're going to be a teacher, like, step it up. So there
Hmm.
was some of that there. So, I mean, and I can't remember which pastor in my life had spoken to this, but like, but this idea of like, what is it, confirmation bias, where like you can find things in your life to confirm whatever it is that you want to believe. You
Hmm.
know, people disappoint you. People are not going to do what you expect them to do, and you can find instances if you want to look for them, But I mean, I've just realized how much I struggled with trusting people to do a thing,
Yeah.
and the more I recognize that, the more I can celebrate when somebody does something and they do a really good job.
Hmm.
And oh, this makes me think of another story of it with my best friend, and she planned a trip to Dubai or whatnot, and I'm usually the planner, like I'm the organized one. She's usually not that, but she wanted to do this for her birthday, and she got everything together for it, the pricing, everything like that, and she planned out the whole entire trip, the days, everything that we were going to do, and usually that's me. And so I don't know if I ever told her this, but I'll send her this video and she can hear me say it here. But she did such a good job. And she was kind of nervous about it because again, I'm the planner of the group, when I get the tickets, I do the da 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 da. But she did such an amazing job with planning that trip. And not that I didn't trust her to do it, but I was like, oh, I have some things in the back of my mind that we can do. If that, but I didn't have to do anything. She did an amazing job. And I think that is something that those people out there who kind of struggle like we do to like put their trust in people, is like, give people the opportunity to step up or come through or be what you need,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And yeah, sometimes you'll get disappointed, but the times where you're not stressed. You're not feeling like, oh, I have to do everything. You can get rid of that narrative, which I've drilled into my mind. Oh, it's always me. I'm the one who has to do everything. People lean on me, and you start getting into this woe is me pity party
Mm-hmm.
type of thing, and you're looking at God like, oh my God, why isn't anybody helping me? And he's like, well, you don't let anybody help you. Like, give it to someone else and let them, and I'll work with them to get whatever needs to get done. Like, you're
Mm-hmm.
not an island and you were never meant to be an island. And so that's something definitely I've been learning over the past few years of just like not letting past disappointments, not projecting past disappointments on people in my life and feeling like I have to do everything myself because I don't.
Yeah.
I have really amazing people in my life, you included, obviously.
Thank you.
But but I do. Like, I have friends that I've prayed for. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up because I didn't have a lot of stability. I mean, I went to 3 high schools in 4 years, so I didn't have a lot of like friends. And so I prayed for them and they're here and I'm learning to lean, on those people in my life and sometimes you're disappointed, but I mean, I've never been like dramatically disappointed, but we're human and they've been
Yeah.
disappointed in me too. So, but yeah,
I
that's a
love
big,
that.
yeah.
I
So,
love that. You reminded me of something. I haven't thought about this in years. When I was in my early 20s, it was my best friend, her husband, my sister, and her husband, and just an extra friend so that I had somebody to hang out with because I was
yeah.
unhitched. Um, but we went from Houston to Fredericksburg, which is like a small town, like 30 minutes of north of Austin. And so fun. Everything closes at 6, which is just a burden, but it keeps you out of trouble.
Yeah.
But we planned this trip, and everybody was like, all right, we're going to go.
Mhm.
My brother-in-law at the time supplied the minivan. Like, we all piled in, and then I got in the minivan. This speaks so much to my personality. I did an itinerary for everybody. What we were going to do, when we were going to do it, where we were going to eat. Because I'd been to Fredericksburg before, and it was all their first time. And I printed it out. I had maps. I put, I bound it. Like, I made,
I
with
love
like
it.
the clear cover, I made itineraries
I
for
love it.
everybody. And then they looked at it and was like, this is nice. Threw it to the side. And I'm just sitting here like, we're not going to have fun now. Like, you've ruined the entire trip. I don't understand
The
what you're
fun
doing.
is in the book.
Exactly.
Okay? The fun has been scheduled.
It was so funny because we had so many moments where they're like, where should we go? What should we do? I'm like, read the itinerary. But
That would drive me crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I planned out how much fun we were gonna have and when we were gonna have it. It's timestamped.
like 95% fun level. Just
Right.
gone.
Right.
It was so funny because like they were like, we will have fun. You have to trust us. Like, we're all fun people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, because they were telling me I was sucking the fun out of it by trying to plan every single moment. It was a great trip. Like, a lot
Yeah.
of memories. Great trip.
Yeah.
But it's so funny how when you were talking about letting your friend plan the trip. Yeah, I was just like, yeah, I completely like, I get that. I get that. I did it again. I planned a trip to Ireland with my friend Katrina a couple of years ago. And like, when I tell you from the rental car to like the little, we were going to drive the island. We were taking 2 weeks. We were going to fly to Scotland. Like, I had an itinerary. We booked the tickets that morning. I literally just pinged her and was like, you want to go to Ireland? We found tickets. That day, booked it. I know. That's that stability. You can just do that.
Well, you
But,
got a little
like,
check.
we booked the tickets, and I spent the entire workday like planning the itinerary, and I sent it to her with like Google Maps, pictures, all the kind of stuff. I found the Airbnbs, like I did everything.
Yeah.
And she was like, this is why I love you. Some people appreciate that level of detail.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I completely understand. And so for me, this is just me giving you examples of how hard it is in this season to trust other people and to trust God and relinquish all control of the situation that I'm currently in. Like,
Yeah.
it has been a task, and you feel like you're flying blind.
Mm.
But if you trust God's sight into the future, God's sight into the present, God's sight into you, into those around you,
Yeah.
then you should be able to see everything clearly through Him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's very difficult.
It
'cause
is.
I'm like you with the itineraries. I do have one friend that I travel with. I love traveling with her because we're the same. Like we're pretty type A. You know, I like to plan and we have our roles when we're on the trip, and you know what I'm saying? And it's just this beautiful experience. Like her and I love traveling together. She lives in Chicago now, but her and I love traveling together. And in so many ways that helps me in my business because I organize things for people. Like I take it off their plate. Like that skill set comes in handy.
Oh,
It's just when, and I think everything can be extreme. I try to be as even keel as possible because anything in excess, no matter how good it is, can just be damaging. Because I also feel myself with God, like, okay, God, like how much trust do I need with you? Do I need like 5? Do I need a 6? Do you know what I'm saying? Like I want to measure the trust of how much I need for this. Like this one, I trusted you. It went great. Thanks. Here's the new one. How much trust do I need? You know, like I just want like a plan, you know, and it's so satisfying too. And that's the problem is like, if you would have handed me your bound itinerary, like
It was
that
so nice.
it would, I mean, it probably was beautiful.
It was.
Like, was it in color?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. See, I would have
I even
loved
made a
it.
cover sheet, like, and titled it and everything.
Right. And for people who don't appreciate that, like, why don't you appreciate that? Like, this is, you know, like, this is how you get through life. Color coded, wire bound, okay, time stamped. Like this is, you know, but I love that God gives us grace for that. Like I love that He knows us, you know, that He has every hair on our head counted, that He knit us together, you know, in our mother's womb. Like He knows that. You know, like He knows, like He didn't just like and throw somebody in there. I mean, He probably like stitched me together like piece by piece and was like, you know, she's gonna be one of these people. She's gonna be like.
But I always say, so God is still in the details. Because here's my thing.
Oh, 100%.
God gave David the plans for the temple. But if you look at the Bible, like this was probably one of the hardest things for me. 'Cause as much as I like to have order, I like high level. I don't like details. And so reading about Solomon, when he was building the temple and he talked about how many trees, how many workers, how many stones, how many, all these pieces of wood, all that type of wood. I'm sitting here like, I don't care. Are we on time? Are we on target? Or like, give me high level.
Yeah.
But God is so deep into the details and how He intricately created each of us to help us function together. But God also, I think a lot of us, people, type A people like us, we often have a lot of friends that are not like us. And it's interesting because it's like, they always say, you know what, in between plans is where like life happens. And it's like when you release control, that's where your faith happens. That's where God's will happens. It's able to just kind of go on and through and move everything forward. God needs people who are planners, who are wired the way that we're wired. But at the same time, God needs us to have a level of faith and trust to allow His will to maneuver and to move through things so that we're not holding it so tightly, because then it makes the need for Him like obsolete. And God will never give us something that makes Him unnecessary. Exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that just speaks to the body. Do you know what I'm saying? Like your hand and your eyes don't have the same function.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I think about this too, and this is a little bit of a sidebar, but I think about like different preachers and teachers and all this other thing, and sometimes, you know, different teachers and preachers yap about like, hey, this person isn't talking about this enough, and this person isn't talking about that enough. And I'm just like, well, what if that's not their assignment?
Yeah.
What if it's yours?
Yeah.
You talk about it. Like God put a burden on your heart to talk about it, you talk about it. And then a burden that's on their heart is that. Like it really has a lot to do with our personal experiences and the compassions that God has put on our hearts,
Mm-hmm.
and the burdens that, and I don't say this, like to condemn anyone because I don't want it to sound like that, but like, you know, because of how I grew up, like, homelessness was a big thing with me growing up. And that's something that was just throughout my life, bouncing around and here and there and evictions and all this other stuff. But I see people that some other people don't see. Like that
Mm-hmm.
person standing on the corner could have easily been my mother. Like I see the person laying over there in the tent because I have experiences. So that allows me to see, and God has used that for my business when it comes to people, that compassion for people and helping
Mm-hmm.
them find a place. Like, but my heart has been tenderized for that because of how I grew up.
Yeah.
And it's not, and God had to work on me with this because I used to get upset when people didn't necessarily like see these people or very dismissive, or I had a friend who would make like jokes about people standing on the side, and that's because she didn't grow up like that. She grew up very stable. Like her parents still live in the house that she was taken to when she was born,
Mm-hmm.
and she lived with her parents so she had a very stable upbringing. And it's not to say that she didn't have compassion, but it was just towards a different thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to learn that about my friends and people in my life and being a part of the body, that it's not um, that people lack compassion in this or that. It's just that we all are a part of the body and we've all have different experiences, and God has put different things in our heart. Hey, okay, you care about like homelessness and people having housing, and that's on your heart, and that's been nurtured throughout your life, and so I need you to focus here, I need you to be here, I love that you see these people, now serve these people, in this capacity. But also, there might be someone who, like somebody in their family, struggled a lot with like mental illnesses. And so they see those people, where I might see them, but they see them.
Yeah.
They have a heart for them. And so I think it's going back to what you were saying about like God needing, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like our gifts, and that we all have different gifts because we all are supposed to use our gifts in
Yeah.
whatever way God tells us to, and they work together,
Yeah.
you know, as as a body. And we don't need to like compete with the hands if we're the ears. We don't,
Exactly.
you know what I'm
There you
saying?
go. Yeah, yeah. It's that is literally. So I was literally writing a statement of faith for Refined Network yesterday, and it's all about unity. And I was in John, and it
Yeah.
talks about how we are the body of Christ, and I love that because I genuinely understand how everybody has different functions.
Mhm.
Every part of the body has a purpose,
Yeah.
but a vein doesn't need to do what every hand needs to do. The red blood cells don't need to do what the white blood cells do. Like the
Mhm.
right hand can do something, the left hand can do something. They can all be on the same body doing
Yeah.
different things, serving a purpose.
Yeah.
That's the function of a body. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, you look, and it's so interesting because even hearing like even more about your story and how you came up, it shows me more of why you are the way that you are. And it makes me think back to why, like, how I grew up and why I am the way that I am. The reason I love order, the way I'm so timely. My mother used to set all the clocks 15 minutes fast, so we were never late. And so
Mm.
punctuality is a big deal to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And things
Yeah.
like that. And so it's there's so much that God uses from just the circumstances of how we grew up for his good. We
Yeah.
just don't see it until we really like sit with him and say, Lord, why am I this way? And he was like,
Yeah.
I have literally been tweaking you and tweaking you and tweaking you throughout the years to make you this perfect version of the person I created you to be for this purpose. And now you can serve in that purpose, because if you look at your life as a training ground for what God has called you to, your life starts making a lot more sense. You were talking about housing. One of my dreams is to buy houses, the one that I'm sitting in fact, for single moms, single fathers. I was raised by a single mom in a townhouse in a neighborhood that wasn't the best, in an area that wasn't the best. I want to take people out of that circumstance and put them somewhere else. That is something I have a heart for. But people are always like, why are you like that? Where did that come from? That's what it came from.
Yeah.
Like,
nothing wasted with God.
Nothing is wasted.
Nothing wasted.
Absolutely. Nothing is wasted.
Nothing is wasted.
So everything is worked out for his good. Like, there is purpose in everything to glorify him. And sometimes it honestly takes a look back to understand where he's taking you forward to. It really explains a lot. Like, I can clearly see, knowing more about your story, I can clearly see the path that he has you on, and it makes so much sense for who you are and what he brought you through.
Yeah.
Love that. He's intentional.
Because I sometimes think he's up there just being all willy-nilly. And he's like, calm down, okay? I started this whole entire universe. I think I can handle, your 100-year life or whatever it is going to be. But yeah, it's. I was thinking about that this morning, just his intentionality and also just that nothing wasted, man.
Nothing is wasted.
Nothing wasted. I remember very specifically, and I told the story the other day in my life group. I was like, driving away from my mom. I had dropped her off at a shelter, which I had done before. And I was driving back to Charlotte because she was in Atlanta at the time. And I remember crying. Oh my God. I always cried when she left, because I just knew what she was going back to. And I remember crying, but these tears were different for the very first time. And I remember asking God, like, please don't waste my tears. Like, please don't waste my tears. And I'm telling you, I don't know exactly the timeline, but the idea for Blind Move came pretty quickly after that.
Wow.
Like, I don't remember exactly if it was months or whatnot, but like, I remember Blind Move came pretty quickly after that, the idea for it, And so I see that too. And so like, that's just an encouragement to your listeners, just like, nothing's wasted.
Nothing is wasted.
Nothing's wasted. It's just, like whatever it is, he'll weave it into your story, just this perfect quilt. So it's, but it's just a beautiful thought, nothing's wasted at all. So, yeah.
That might have to be the title for this one.
Nothing's wasted.
I'm sitting here, I'm like, that has to be the title for this episode. Nothing is wasted. Because it's so true, and it speaks volumes to all that he's brought us through and where he's taking us and all that he's doing. Like, everything has a purpose. Like, nothing gets wasted. And I think this has been a very grounding and wonderful conversation. It took on a life of its own, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, which a lot of our conversations do. I don't know if we ever start and end in the same place.
We really don't. We don't.
We really don't. We don't. It's okay though. We get somewhere.
Yep.
We arrive somewhere. It goes somewhere. So
But no, I appreciate you coming on here. This has been a long time coming. So I'm very excited.
I'm so privileged to have been asked to be on your network,
I love it. I will put in the description all the information for Blind Move. So if you guys are moving to the Charlotte area, if you are interested in moving to the Charlotte area, Melissa, I can attest. She got me here. She got me set up. It was fantastic. And, I've talked about this before, but you can't discount working with other believers, because even in the process of moving to Charlotte, I fell in love with like 2 properties. And Melissa was like, go home and pray about it. Do not make a decision. Do not make a decision right now. Go pray about it. And the one that I wanted the most was not the one that God had me at. And it was almost like I got home and it just all started to unfold. What wasn't available became available. It became in my price range, all these things.
Mhm.
So it's nothing like working for somebody who is working for the Father, working for the
Mhm.
kingdom,
Yeah.
and really just like honoring him through all the things that they do in their walk and even in their business. So I
Yeah.
will,
Can I just say one thing before
yeah,
we
go for it.
wrap up? You just spoke to something that's also been on my heart because I've been looking for all these different kind of vendors to help my business expand and whatnot. And it is hard to, I'll say this, it's hard to find people who are Christian, whatever, or just, trying to get out there, do whatever, Christian run clubs, like whatever God has put on your heart to do. You as a Christian, do it. A Christian gym, so I don't have to listen to certain kind of music while I work out. That would be fantastic.
Please.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it would be great to, hear like Christian rap while we're working out or whatnot. But there's just so many, and this speaks to our conversation about like the being the body. It's like, it doesn't have to be you on a platform in a church. Like, there's so many ways that you can be out in the community. A Christian bakery, so instrumentals with Christian music in the background, a Christian, whatever, Christian jewelry. It would be,
A coffee shop. Work with me, y'all.
coffee shop, seriously, a Christian co-working space.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? I find Christians out in the wild, obviously, but and maybe they are Christians, and I don't know, but I mean, like, to create a space as a Christian business owner that's run in a godly manner, that people enter and they know they will be treated with integrity and the same standard that God has. Even if they don't know it, they feel it.
Yeah.
And so, like, whatever, Christian dentistry, I don't care. Like,
I love it. I love
I
it.
don't care. So just whatever it is, please just go do it.
There's nothing like
And God.
walking into a place and feeling God's presence when you felt like he was
Right.
absent, but somebody in there is already
Right.
praying and talking to him and he was already there. Yeah.
Right. And integrity
Yeah.
and quality and
Yeah.
excellence,
All the
So
things.
all the things. So yeah. Sorry.
I
That
love
was my
it.
tangent.
Well, thank you for coming on. We're going to have to do this again. I
Having
love this
me.
conversation.
I know. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right,
All
you
right.
guys, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you for joining today's conversation. I hope something shared today encouraged you, challenged you, or reminded you that you're not walking this journey alone. If this episode spoke to you, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this with someone you think may need it. Until next time, keep showing up, seeking God, and becoming the person he called you to be. Bye.